The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Ladies and gentlemen, today on the program, The Right Side, you are here. The radical liberal hypocrisy on Trump and his deal with Israel and Hamas bringing peace. Their hypocrisy on the entire plan, trying to take credit. His historic deal, the fight against anti-Semitism in the United States, and putting socialism under the microscope. Today, ladies and gentlemen, The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right Side with Doug Billings, Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and his divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Crickets, ladies and gentlemen, listen closely. Crickets. You don't hear anything at all from the radical left mob, especially those the paid Soros activists that we've seen so often on college campuses. The Palestinian mob silenced. Nothing else to talk about, is there? The peace president has answered. Nothing for the radical. They're going to have to find something else to protest, folks. Hey, we're back. We got a full 2 hours here, so we're gonna. It continues to be the number one story in the world, the peace deal. The radical liberal mob. Some of them actually are forced to give credit where credit is due, and some of them have done that. But there is a fair number of people who are now trying to put up a tally board of how many hostages did our side get and how many have yours gotten. So we're going to talk about that. And then I'm also going to talk about, I'm going to put socialism and communism under the microscope because we have a problem here. And maybe the elephant in the room is that we're not talking enough about the polling that shows young people 18 to 25 and upwards of sometimes hitting age 30. But especially 18 to 25, that's the sweet spot. This survey showing that communism and socialism in particular is appealing to these kids. And it's a result of decades of indoctrination. It's a result of decades of our side, the conservative side, not being involved enough in our local levels of government. And if we've got to be honest with ourselves, we are in this mess because we, as conservative Americans, were not involved enough. But now, this great reawakening that we're experiencing the tides are changing. There's more and more of us getting involved. And it's not that I'm saying America's on our deathbed. I don't believe that America is on our deathbed. I think for a time, America was in a very severe nightmare, 100%. But as I've said before, everyone wakes up from nightmares, and we're in that process. But the radical liberals who have spent years protesting President Trump and Israel, all in the name of so-called Palestine peace. We want peace for the Palestinian people. That's why we're marching. That's why we're spray painting college campuses and burning buildings. Palestinian peace. So, they've marched. Yes, they've chanted. They've blocked streets. We've seen it all. Defiled and burned and terrorized campuses throughout the country, especially, obviously, and only in blue cities. Occupation. That's what our side does. They blame us for occupation. genocide, while they ignored the real terrorists. So now, with this Trump historic peace plan in place, signed, sealed, and delivered this week, taking place in Israel and Egypt over the last couple of days, the release of all of the living hostages, and now the ceasefire that we have in Gaza, some of these hypocrites, some of these radical liberal kooks are now forced to eat crow and give credit where credit is due. I mean, you've got Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel. Yes, Stephen Colbert has got a show again. He's an independent, and Jimmy Kimmel, as you know, is back. But even these two guys tipped their hats to President Trump for brokering the breakthrough and the peace deal. Colbert, who's made a career of mocking Trump, admitted on his show that the president actually nailed it this time with the deal. And he joked about, well, finally, the art of the deal has paid off. So we'll give credit where credit is due, too. Thank you, Stephen Colbert. Now, he'll go back to the lambasting and the mockery of Trump in all good due time. And Kimmel, who is no fan of ours, he does not like conservatives, certainly doesn't like Trump. He did call the hostage releases a win for humanity. They came out the other day on their shows and at least said that. Kimmel got right back in to the monologue of mocking Trump. I know. I watch those shows so you don't have to, my friends. Part of the job of leading you through determined patriotism. But peace happened under Trump, not under their beloved, mentally gone administrator Biden. Certainly not under Vice Pretender Harris. But I'm telling you, and you won't hear this anywhere, the hypocrisy stems from the radical left's alliance with anti-Israel agitators. I mean, think of the squad, ladies and gentlemen. Think of campus socialists, Hollywood elites, all protesting Trump's policies since the day he came down the golden escalator. All the while, they never comment upon and always turn a blind eye to ISIS and Hamas and every terrorist group that we know about. You remember waving Palestinian flags, Ilhan Omar and all the squad putting Palestinian flags outside of their office in the Senate building, clamoring about solidarity and peace. But really what they want, and their narrative is all about the demonization of Israel as the aggressor. Go back to 2024 with me for a moment. Remember the protests blocking bridges in New York? Chanting no more U.S. aid to Israel and all sorts of other sundry of idiocracy. Or the Hollywood boycotts of Israeli films. Yeah, sure, they're all about the First Amendment over there. Sure they are, yeah. All the while, they would ignore Hamas and how Hamas used the aid that Palestinians were given to build and fire rockets into Israel instead of rebuilding schools for the Palestinian people. And so now with the hostages set free, we get a chance to imagine what a rebuilt Gaza would look like. And the radical liberals are now exposed. You see, ladies and gentlemen, when radical liberals like that talk about peace, that's code for let's weaken America and Israel. You contrast all of that with President Trump and what he's done, his real achievements, not just talk and not just appeasement. He didn't just talk, he delivered. From the Abraham Accords and that have now led to the real chance and discussions of normalizing ties with Arab nations, to the ceasefire, to the release of the hostages, President Trump is the peace president. And because of his actions and because of the businessman approach to all of this, he gets results. He was called and put into place for exactly such a time as this. The radical liberals, I mean, watch them. Take a good look at what they do now. They're scrambling. Now, some are praising him, grudgingly so, and others are doubling down on their hate. But they have to at least members of their hierarchy have to give credit. Much more to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. Time flies. Up against the first break. Don't go anywhere, because if you do, the liberals win. I'll be right back. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity, and you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Right Side with Doug Billings, where I admit it, I take a great amount of pleasure in pointing out the intellectual immaturity of liberals everywhere, giving you ammunition to discuss these topics when you gather with family, friends, colleagues, and so forth. The peace deal, the tally now that you're getting to see on social media. Biden released this many. Trump only got that many, right? Biden secured the release of more hostages than President Trump, right? That's the new liberal mantra that we see out there this morning on social media. Whatever, folks. But let's just look at, because it's not a matter of ego being bruised for us. We're about the truth. Administrator Biden secured $6 billion in cash and nearly a battalion of Tier 1 grade U.S. military equipment, including Black Hawk helicopters that ended up in the hands of the Taliban and armed them much better than many of our own allies in that region. Thank you, Administrator Biden. Thank you, Vice Pretender Harris. You want to talk about tallies, you want to talk about body counts, because that's what led to the rise of the Hamas, the wealth of all of the weaponry that Hamas used against its own people. President Trump has offered us and the world a masterclass in diplomacy. All right, but I'm going to call out the liars as they begin coming out. We're not going to let, for far too long. I mean, we have good manners, us conservatives. We're nice. We give the benefit of the doubt. We extend grace. Absolutely so. But I'm not going to sit here and be quiet, nor should you. We should always countermeasure their lies with the truth. So I'll call them out, trying to steal the thunder of a magnificent peace deal. And we have to call them out because the people need to know. Some commu-socialists out there, commu-socialists, formerly known as the Democrat Party, they're claiming that the Biden administration laid the groundwork for this Israel and Hamas peace deal. Baloney. Baloney. Biden's efforts, like I said, weak-kneed negotiations that led to Hamas being able to regroup, dig the tunnels, traffic prisoners, launch October 7th attacks, and give us a trickle of hostages here and there, all while they demanded, the Biden administration demanded, that Israel halt all operations. Remember that pier fiasco and that $230 million boondoggle that collapsed after delivering it straight to the terrorists? How about Biden pressuring Israel to hold fire? Hold fire, don't fire. Let's let Hamas take a breath. We got to, and that's what gave Hamas time to embed themselves in hospitals of all places, in Gaza and other places, and to embed themselves in schools. You see, using human beings as a shield against whatever possible retribution might be aimed at them. So that's not groundwork that Biden and his administration did in the Communist Socialist Party. That is sabotage. The real turning point in all of this came when Trump returned. His team, right? And this includes Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. not just in Israel, but throughout the world, negotiating peace deals. At my count, Trump has 8 peace deals now in place. 8 wars ended. And how did they do it? They didn't do it by telling our side, the good side, to hang on, stop, and letting the other side regroup. They did it by leveraging the United States military strength. Trump putting Tomahawk missiles on standby so that Ukraine may be able to use them, right, with Russia. Now, Trump isn't saying they're going to use the Tomahawks. That's a bargaining chip, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I know most of you get that. The radical left, though, needs to be countermeasured when they begin to say, well, look at Trump. He's going to push us towards World War III with Tomahawk missiles aimed at Russia. He's doing that not to use them, but to bring Putin to the table. You see, he does the same thing with tariffs. He's done the same thing here in Israel. And still the radical left, they don't self-reflect. They don't look and say, wow, look at what Trump has done. Look at this success. We should actually really try to do some things like maybe our plan of chaos. No, they're not going to stop the chaos. The Commune Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is not going to stop their endeavor to always, whether organically or creating it on their own, stop chaos. Chaos is their patron demon. Chaos, in their view, is the fastest way that they can answer Barack Obama's call to fundamentally transform America. There's declassified documentations now that show Biden's State Department was flirting with and calling for de-escalation in talks as late as last September. But it was Trump with the stance of maximum pressure that broke the stalemate and got us to peace. And make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, this is important. It was Trump's decision to bomb the Iranian nuclear facilities that was another real wake-up call for this process, not only to Hamas and the situation in Gaza, but to the world, and especially including Russia, China, and North Korea. Can you imagine the conversations in Putin's cabinet room? Holy moly, they bombed. They did it. Trump actually did it. He bombed Iran's nuclear facilities. Yeah. Well, you're damn right. And he's going to do it. And he doesn't bluff. So this makes world leaders take a double look and wake up. Now, if Hamas reneges in all of this, because none of us trust Hamas, let's be honest, well, then the exclusive analysis here is that Israel, along with President Trump's backing, would unleash hellfire upon Hamas. They would be decimated as an organization and as individual people. I mean, you think about it, precision strikes wiping out those tunnels with Hamas terrorists inside of them, hunting them down with Israeli information and intel, taking them out one by one. You know, you see the reason Trump shows the destruction of those drug boats, right? He wants the world to know what we can do. And he wants the terrorists to know that there's no safe harbor. We will find you. What's the Liam Neeson? I have a specific set of skills. I will find you and I will kill you. And that's Trump, and that's what he wants, and that's good. That's the American strength. Remember, liberals speak about peace and equality. That's code for just stand down and let the terrorists take over. And the Hamas leadership in Qatar, it's been expelled, right? The deal's 20-point plan includes demilitarization phases for Hamas and the terror groups over there. If they violate that, then Trump has this, he calls it the Board of Peace. It's the advisory team over there, and they are going to greenlight, if Hamas reneges on this, a full reoccupation of Gaza and an extradition and absolute eradication of the individuals who make up the organization of Hamas. Now, Trump's vision, rebuild Gaza into a thriving hub. And I said yesterday, imagine, this is what Trump is good at. He can imagine the beauty of a business development, resorts along. It's a stunning Mediterranean coastline there. And it doesn't take much to see beyond the bombed out buildings in the tent cities to see what we're talking about with regards to Trump's vision, and done with American ingenuity. And then once completed, a funnel of money and profit back to the United States. Now, jobs, a life for Palestinians there, a place where they can call home, but it's all going to be eradicated. The Palestinians have got to have the guts to reject jihadists. Much more to talk about and digest, ladies and gentlemen. I see you on social media, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for following along. I'll be right back right after this break. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity, and you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Doug Billings with you. Thank you very much indeed for being here today. Thanks to all of the new viewers and listeners. Glad that you're finding your way over here as we endeavor to create the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland, my friends. The hypocrisy of the left, the crickets over there by some others claiming that Biden did better than Trump, keeping score. No, not going to have any of that, ladies and gentlemen. We will endeavor to tell the truth. By the way, the Democrats know what the score is here. Trump is the diplomat that we've all waited for. He's better than Nixon's China pivot because these are healing biblical wounds. Biblical wounds, ladies. I mean, in real time and in real life, right in front of us. And Democrats know it. That's why they're either quiet or they're forced to give Trump credit. And to truly debunk this whole Biden, the new mantra now that's out there, this Biden has done more than Trump in terms of peace. Let me just take a moment and explain the timeline here for you. Again, to arm you with truth so that when you're confronted by the kook liberal fringe, you'll be able to countermeasure what they tell you. Biden saw 250 hostages taken during his watch and freed only 105 of them. Okay, through his quote unquote diplomacy. Most of those numbers were women and children that came back in 2023, while men continued to rot in the tunnels and the prisons that Hamas had created. Biden's administration, $6 billion with a B, $6 billion to Iran in 2023 that directly funded Hamas. Their arsenal blossomed because of the Biden era. And you contrast that with President Trump's first 100 days in office, where he froze those assets. He slapped sanctions on countries like Qatar for hosting Hamas bases. And then he dispatches his envoys to twist arms and get deals done through American strength. And the breakthrough, Trump's personal calls to people like El-Sisi and Abbas, promising United States investment in the Sinai development projects if they mediated the peace process, all begin to come true. And they were there when we saw them on television the last couple of days, when they all gathered in Egypt. This is going to be a windfall for a lot of people. And you've got now hardline Arab nations talking the normalization of relationships with Israel and an era and a breath of peace and prosperity for the Palestinian people, for the Arab nations, for Israel, for the United States. And Biden's crew, Biden's administration, when they were in the game, were still sending mixed signals. Anthony Blinken, oh my gosh, the former Secretary of State Blinken out there tweeting that we should restrain ourselves. While Hamas was firing rockets into Israel. Give me totally out of their league, don't know how to negotiate their way out of a paper bag, ladies and gentlemen. If Hamas backs out, I know because no one trusts Hamas, the consequences would be swift and severe, not just from a military standpoint, from a global economic standpoint. So Trump's deal, now it does, if you look at the 20-point plan, it does include a United Nations observer force, but the United States is guaranteed veto power at the Security Council to block any kind of nonsensical anti-Israeli resolutions that group might put forth. You will see like-minded people with Trump coming together and beginning to formulate this, that they want to withdraw from the United States. They want to withdraw from the United Nations. Now, I think that'll happen before. I think that they're going to begin to talk about it soon, and it may well happen before the end of Trump's first term. Mark my words, you heard it here first. And then you have, again, if Hamas reneges, there's another risk, a real one. It's not even a risk, it's a certainty that our coalition would strike them. Israel from the north, Egypt from the south, sealing the south side, and then United States drones overhead just going after them. And I'm talking about pinpointing individuals of Hamas, not blowing up entire neighborhoods, but going after where they are in the tunnels. We have the technology. We have Israel's intel. That's what's going to happen if they renege. And then their funding streams, right? Crypto donations from Turkish banks and so forth, all of that dries up, because we have treasury blacklists in place that are ready to go. So although we don't trust, we go back to what Reagan said, trust but verify. You'll have, if Sinwar decides if the Hamas leader, if he decides he wants to play games, he's going to be hunted down like bin Laden, and bounties on his head will be doubled or tripled. So they know this. And this is why we see Trump flexing his muscles all around the world, in mild ways, bringing tariffs that are designed to bring people to the table. Then the tariffs are let go once a good, mutually America First deal is made. Or with bombing the drug runners. You've seen them on the oceans in their boats, right? The missiles hitting them. Those are done to send messages. Anyway, so Hamas knows this, and Hamas sees that. Peace through strength. That is the Trump doctrine. It's what's worked, and it is what will continue to bring the hope of billions of dollars in United States aid for Gaza. And they want to build desalination plants over there. They want to turn it into a desert farmland, a resort area, turning the desert into paradise. And if you look at it, it doesn't take much imagination. It's a I know, bombed out buildings in tent cities now, but look at that Mediterranean coastline. Beautiful potential, beautiful possibilities led by America that will be a benefit to us economically, and peace finally for the Palestinian people, for Israel, for the entire region. How can this possibly be understated? I mean, when you look at this in a historical context, Trump has done better than any United States diplomat in history. Thomas Jefferson negotiated with Barbary pirates, but Trump tames and conquers modern-day pirates. Nixon opened up China amid Vietnam, right? Well, Trump opens peace amid chaos in the Middle East. I mean, even Teddy Roosevelt's Panama Canal deal was a bold deal. But what we see from Trump in the Middle East today and this week, this month, is biblical. There are certain commie socialists, formerly known as Democrats, like the Clintons, for example, who have thanked President Trump, and we give credit. That's very nice. They unabashedly thanked and gave credit to President Trump. They claim, and they admitted rightly so, that Trump's leadership is what sealed this deal. But you have in our country people who we must begin to root out, ladies and gentlemen, invoking our determined patriotism, our involvement as conservatives into our local levels of government, the squad, right? Because these people are quiet and their silence is deafening, and it's very telling. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and Rashida Tlaib, quiet, crickets, nothing. Those are four of the most anti-American representatives to ever serve in the House. But in spite of all of this, what we're seeing in the Middle East is another example of America's resurgence, America coming back. We still have issues. We still have, we still have anti-Semitism to deal with, college campuses to remedy, because this rising tide of anti-Semitism that's infecting the campus life across America, across our street, even Congress, as the people that I just outlined there, the squad. We all know, you and I, as conservatives, nothing that is run, led, or managed by human beings is perfect. No nation, no government, no political party, no religion, no race. Nothing's perfect. We all have flaws, but the abject, just outright hating of Jews because they're Jews, hating Jews for Jews' sake, not only is that vastly intellectually immature, it's not smart, and it's not based in reality. From Ivy Leagues protesting and chanting from the river to the sea, to the squad members, like I mentioned, AOC, Tlaib, peddling Hamas propaganda wherever they go and on whatever and during whatever interview they give. It's hate straight out of the Marxist playbook that is designed for one purpose: to divide us and to sow chaos. Because they know, Tlaib, Rashid, Ilhan Omar, AOC, they know that when they go out there and give these kinds of speeches of hate, that it will incite the kooks and it will bolster up the Soros-funded groups of chaos that are out there to go to work. And we look with common sense. With those of us on the right side, a conservative worldview, we understand, first of all, a sense of history with regards to this. We embrace the Judeo-Christian foundation of this republic because that's our bedrock. The bedrock of this country is not radical Islam. It is not Hindu. It is Judeo-Christianity. Judeo-Christian principles are the found, and it's about time we shout that out and begin. The intent of the founding fathers had everything to do with Judeo-Christian foundation and nothing to do with Islam. And look at the trend of what we see in this country today. The founding fathers drew and got their inspiration from, first of all, the divine providence of God, but also from Mosaic law. The 10 Commandments, ladies and gentlemen, extending from John and Jane Doe on the streets of America all the way up to the Supreme Court. That was their intent, the founding fathers. And America's alliance with Israel isn't just merely political, it's providence, it's providential, it's biblical. All right, right back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to talk about the Palestinians and the hope this gives them as well. Thanks for joining us. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, The Right Side with Doug Billings is upon you. I'll be right back. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity, and you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Right Side with Doug Billings, where we engage in determined prayer and determined patriotism. That's how we roll over here. And we can't forget the Palestinian people in all of this. They've been plagued by terror outfits like Hamas and ISIS and the Taliban, who actually hijacked their cause for peace with Israel. We of course, have empathy and compassion for and care for the Palestinian people. It's their interactions with the terrorist groups that have not all been voluntary, by the way. They've been forced. Hamas has literally held the Palestinian people hostage in many of these cases. So now we see signs of the Palestinian people rising up. Just the other day during the peace process, you've got these, the Hamas gang lords that still roam over there that are being shut down, the people rising up against them. So internal revolts in Gaza really do give us evidence that the Hamas thugs who are used to getting their way over there from stealing and using the aid that was given and intended for the Palestinians, they're losing their grip and people are rising up. And that's really where the true change will begin to take root, when the Palestinian people begin to rise up and say no more. And that's when we know this thing will have wings and fly. But Trump's deal does open the doors for them to do that. It opens the doors for them to break free. No one else could have done this. Certainly no member of the radical liberal commu-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, could have accomplished any of this. And we've got the anti-Semitism. We've got to begin to squelch it. 63% FBI reports, 63% spike in anti-Jewish incidents since October of 23. So over 2,000 hate crimes in 2024 alone, ladies and gentlemen, from synagogue vandalism to campus assaults and everywhere else in between. At Harvard, Jewish students sued for harassment. At Columbia, professors, this won't surprise any of us on the right side, Columbia professors glorifying Hamas as the resistance, right? Wrong. Not standing anymore. And the tide is turning. In New York City, assaults on Orthodox Jews have tripled thanks to the rhetoric of Mondavi and AOC and all of the other communist socialists who are either in or trying to get into public office, often slanting the slurs and so forth that we've seen so many times on the mainstream media. And Congress, our very own Congress, the Squad, their resolutions actually condemn Israel while ignoring the hostages that were over there. Tlaib says genocide, all the while taking part in inspired protests funded by Soros against the Jewish people. So that, again, doesn't surprise me. I'm here to let you know that that's the tactic of the left. They incite purposeful chaos. There's no other conclusion we can draw. And it stretches all the way back to the opening of the border to what we're seeing happening on college campuses in the country with regards to anti-Semitism. Opening the border, boom, chaos, instant chaos. Oh, and by the way, let's don't prosecute violent criminals with extreme prejudice. In fact, if we do, because we're caught, we have to act like we're going to do something to these people. If we do prosecute and sentence them, let's give them extremely light sentences. And then when you're able to, let them out early so that they can get right back to the cause of chaos. Folks, there's no other conclusion that we can draw. The radical left movement in this country has turned to absolutely purposeful chaos to incite it whenever they can. And they do not look around and self-reflect on why they are losing numbers, and the majority of the people in this country who happen to be intellectually mature and filled with common sense look at them and say no more. They don't get it. In fact, they double down on the nonsense. We could go as deep as the transgender movement. Chaos. Folks, there's no such thing as transgenderism. It's a mental disease. You cannot change your God-given gender. It's all cosmetic. But no. Radical liberal monsters will dare to suggest to children, and what I'm about to say is horrific language. Johnny, Sarah, the only way that you can be happy if you really feel that God has misplaced your gender or misassigned it is to mutilate your genitalia. Barbaric, medieval, horrifying. But yet that's what the radical left in this country is talking about. Look at it. And the mainstream America, the vast majority of people in this country reject it outright. Our Judeo-Christian heritage is strong. It's woven into America's fabric. from Washington's letter to the Truro synagogue when he was promising them religious freedom, to Lincoln's biblical references in his speeches, and all of the founders in their private writings spoke about the Creator, a divine providence guiding this republic. And in our very own Declaration of Independence, it's obvious. The Creator, echoing not only Christian, but Jewish principles as well. Obvious. And we embrace it. We need to teach kids the values of this. Justice, freedom from tyranny, Judeo-Christian roots, support Christian groups in your community. Get involved, most importantly, in your local levels of government to sway the tide away from this radical liberalism. And for the Palestinian people, their hopes lie almost completely in their determination to rise up against and to reject terror. 70% of people, of Palestinians, mind you, this is according to a poll that I read from Gaza the other day, 70% of the Palestinian people in Gaza want Hamas out of there. No more underground networks smuggling in messages of dissent, taking away the aid that was meant for the people, trafficking people, etc. So the uprisings we see give hope. We hope that the Palestinian people are emboldened now. We need to support in any way we can. It's incredible. It cannot be understated. It remains the top news story in the country for a reason, because no one else in the history of history has done this. And President Trump has finally done it. Now, the board over there, the Board of Peace, we'll see what they do too. We'll keep an eye on them. And we, the people, have to be engaged, right? The hate mongers that fund Jewish hate, we need to speak up loudly and bold. We cannot be shy about this. And share the Real Talk Radio Network. Share it with your friends and family. The app, get it. Show your friends and family how to get it so that they can listen no matter where they are in the world. Watch us on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, but share the word. And you know what? If you know people who are business leaders in your community, tell them about the Real Talk Radio Network and tell them that we can get their message out and we can bolster their presence. Advertise. We conservatives need, but I'm afraid I don't want to do that because, my neighbors, we've got to stop that nonsense. It's time for us to be peacefully confident in the holiness and the righteousness of American conservatism and share it. Hour number one now, as we say, in the can, ladies and gentlemen, done. I will be back with you in hour two. Don't go away. I'm going to put communism and socialism under a microscope for you so that you know the roots and where it came from and how we combat it today. Stay with me. I'll be right back after the break.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity, and you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, $120, $150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast. Not the kook Q. I'm talking about C-U-E. C-U-E, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
And just like that, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. The Right Side with Doug Billings, coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain of the United States of America, between the two shining seashores. Ladies and gentlemen, I, maybe somewhat unlike other hosts on social media or the radio, what I do read and take a look at the app, the Real Talk Radio app, when I can during the break. And I want to address a comment that I saw with respect and with understanding, because I understand the comment and I can understand why some people might think this. In terms of rebuilding Gaza, and in terms of making it a place where Palestinians and others, for that matter, can enjoy life and liberty and happiness and recreation. You know, I had commented about the beauty of Gaza, the Mediterranean Sea coast there, and it does have incredible potential. And some people would be quick to tell me, oh, but wait a minute, Doug, wait. I think it's appalling that we're even thinking about that. Just imagine all of the people who were murdered there, the bloodshed and the loss of life at the hands of terror organizations. I get it. I completely honor that comment, completely. But here's my point about that. It's a way that we say you didn't win. The loss of life, the terrorism didn't win. Look, we can reclaim this land and this place for happiness. We can reclaim this land and this place for prosperity and life. And we're not going to let the past atrocities hold us back. You will not win. We win. And that's why rebuilding it is absolutely necessary, not only psychologically, but from the perspective of the world and what they look at with regards to conservative leadership. Conservative leadership will always honor those who have been lost and pay them homage and respect. But we cannot and will not just stop and say, well, no, the terror group, it's been stained so badly by terrorism that I couldn't imagine myself frolicking on a beach or going to a casino or whatever, to a resort to get a facial or a massage. I can't imagine it. Well, the call of God and the call of victory, the call of conservatism is begging you to consider that. Consider it, because if we don't, the terrorists win. And I am not about, at least in my opinion, I'm not about to be inclined to allow that to happen. You see, in tragedy, adversity, and challenges, and in this case, the tragedy of what has happened in Gaza, conservatives are able to wrap their head around the fact that in the midst of all of those things, blessings are still there waiting to be born. And I'm telling you, in Gaza, the epicenter of so much tragedy, there are blessings waiting to be born there. And they require our involvement. They require us to pay attention and to participate in the rebuilding of that piece of the world. The blessings that will result when we do will far outweigh and outmatch any semblance of the tragedies. That's what we as conservatives believe in. That's what we do. I used to speak about this at various church groups and so forth. And I would ask people to imagine if they've ever watched, on Saturday or Sunday television, the Nature Channel or whatever, when they've got a volcano that is erupting. As a child, I used to just be fascinated by the volcanoes and the lava that would seep and blow out of these volcanoes and creep along the landscape, sometimes quite quickly and sometimes very slowly, but scorching everything in its path, right? We've seen shows like that. We can all relate. Well, that's what our lives, in many ways, when we face adversity, challenge, and tragedy, feel like we're just being scorched. And clearly, that's what Gaza looks like, right? Scorched, not from a volcano, but from the evil of terrorism. And one thing about those shows that I'll point out to you, and that I always used to remind people about, is that once the lava cools, the new life that begins to grow up through the cracks is more fertile than the life that was there before. And such is the case not only with our lives when we go through adversity, challenge, and tragedy, but so is the case also with Gaza. And it will be more fertile than it was before, precisely because of the adversity, the challenge, and the tragedy that land saw. And that's the beauty of conservatism. We don't let terror win by refusing to rebuild or to go there once it is. We go there and participate in the beauty of conservatism and in the beauty of what has now become the triumph of good over evil. That's a summary, really, of conservatism and the conservative mindset that we've got to have. So I appreciate very much that comment, not at all trying to insult it, because it's someone's personal opinion and I see it, but I will give you this counter opinion and a counter suggestion. Give yourself permission to let Gaza be rebuilt and enjoy that, because it is our ticket to showing and participating in the victory of good over evil. All right. Well, that was certainly unplanned. That was a tangent, but I thought that it needed to be said because of, people say these things, and I want to make sure that I acknowledge the comment and also speak to it, because obviously, I just spent about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes talking about it. It's a good point and one that we ought to consider. The shutdown of the government, part of this communist-socialist takeover, still going on. Don't want to spend a ton of time on that, but it's the Democrats' fault, plain and simple. I really want to take a look this hour with you at the communist takeover, the socialism. I call them the Communist Socialist Party for a reason. The Democrat Party does not exist anymore. I mean, look, I say the John F. Kennedy Democrat Party doesn't exist. For gosh sakes, the Democrat Party of Bill Clinton doesn't exist. And now they're the ones refusing to pass a clean funding bill that would open up the government. And remember, it ties in communism, socialism, breed and create chaos whenever you can. They have a radical left wish list. Amnesty for millions of illegal immigrants, billions more in climate hysteria schemes and nonsense. And then the handouts that they give and that they want to give in this bill that would make even Karl Marx blush at all of the stuff they want. And then the Republicans have offered, folks, a 24-page continuing resolution. When is the last time you've heard of anything being presented in Congress that was 24 pages long? It's not a 5,000, 100,000, 500,000 word debacle that you can't read, but Nancy Pelosi, when she was there, would want you to pass and then read it, right? The Democrats in the House and Senate have dug their heels in, filibustering, blocking early compromises. Look, the Senate majority, Chuck Schumer, is terrified of the vast minority of people within his party who are the liberal kooks, the nut jobs, the squad. He's scared to death of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Scared to death of her. She may run against him in a primary. And you know what? If she does, she will win. That's how radically unhinged New York is. And besides, Schumer's got to go. We got to get rid of the old guy. Everybody from both sides. Another intent of the Founding Fathers is they did not intend elected office to be a way by which you make a living for the rest of your life. Do your 2-year term, do your 6-year term, and get the heck out. I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Going to put communism and socialism under the microscope for you so you better understand how did we get here. Stay with me. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity, and you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to The Right Side, where you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland, Real Talk Radio Network. Find it, support it, get the app, share it, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to all of the shows on as much of the shows as you can possibly. Watch, listen. We're on Rumble, Facebook, and get the app. You can listen. Last map I saw, we've got New Zealand, we've got Finland, everywhere in between, and obviously the United States. Buttoned down, the number one Real Talk conservative station in the country. And here we are. And if you're so inclined, YouTube, I got the letter last week. We removed your channel, Mr. Billings, in error. We're sorry. And they gave me the channel back. So I renamed it Welcome to the Right Side over on YouTube. Check it out. Subscribe. Subscribing is free. Doesn't cost you anything, but you'll get notified when the shows go up over there as well. Plus there's exclusive stuff. extreme liberalism, non-American, on purpose. The shutdown's an example of this. More chaos, right out of the playbook. The Frankfurt School, did you ever hear that? Going to talk about that in just a minute. But communism and socialism under a microscope, and this is not going to be a deep dive, but from a high level, I want to explain how this shutdown is, in fact, an example of what the communist socialist manifestos call for. Chaos, suffering, gaslighting, and projection, right? They gaslight and they project on us and blame us for exactly the things and exactly the chaos that they unleash. Last week, Speaker Johnson's team passed in the House, they passed a stopgap measure to open up the government. But the establishment, the deep swamp Democrats, they wiped it out. And they said that it was extreme, right? So keeping the government open is now extreme. There are internal memos from the Trump White House that we've seen instructing agencies within the government to blame the Democrats. And it's about time we do, because it's their fault. You know, for too long, conservatives in our government, because they're rhinos, haven't spoken up. And we need that's another issue for another day, weeding out and getting rid of the rhinos. That's another topic. But keep in mind, I'm aware that we have an issue on both sides of the aisle here. But it's the Democrats primarily, publicly, that we need to blame for this, because it is their fault. It's the truth. And so now we're taking the fight to them. We're not just standing idly by. We want to take the fight to the public square. And we do, you and I. Me by virtue of the show, you by virtue of engaging with the show, sharing it, and so forth, getting the truth out there. Let the trolls and the haters do what they do and ignore them. Water on the wing of a duck for us, right? The trolls and the haters, they don't matter to us. The truth matters, and we've got to get the truth out. And I'm telling you, the Real Talk News Radio Network, that's the way to do it. So the radical left, all we have to do is watch and see it. They do it right in front of us. They celebrate the chaos. They point fingers at us. And believe me, behind closed doors, the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is cheering on the shutdown chaos. Remember, liberals want chaos. I told you in the first hour, evidence of the obvious is sufficient. All we have to do is look for examples. And hindsight is always 20/20. The open borders, chaos. The non-prosecution of violent criminals, chaos. Riots, looting, arson, and anarchy, chaos. In blue cities, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, chaos. How can all of this just be accidental? It's not accidental. It is planned and coordinated, and it stems from the radical liberals' desire, as mentioned and uttered by Obama, because America needs to be fundamentally transformed in their view. I mean, you look at what just from a cursory view, parks closed, devastating far-reaching impacts with regards to research grants frozen, halting the breakthroughs in medicine and so forth, technology, the border agents working without pay. Now, Trump did order our Department of War, Secretary Pete Hegseth, to get paychecks to our military. But you get my point. A lot of devastation here. But for once, the Republican Party standing their ground with regards to all of this. Small farmers waiting on USDA loans. I mean, there's a whole list of things that we could mention that very rarely get mentioned in this conversation. Real people hurt because of the purposeful communist socialist chaos. Tourism crushed. Everybody who depends on that for a living. Mount Rushmore closed. The Liberty Bell, 0 visitors. Coast, economies being crushed. This is what they did during COVID. Crush economies on purpose. Oh, but the strip clubs and the liquor stores, don't worry, they'll always be open for us. We can always go there. Right. And now the FAA, air traffic controllers. Most of them are very good, going to work every day. But the communist socialist, the FAA members who are communists calling in sick, right? Shameful. And now you've got mile-long lines at airports in some cases. But it's hypocrisy through and through. And they scream about helping the vulnerable. But then they force this pain on the very people they claim to be championing. And Trump's response is the smart one, again, because during the shutdown, he has more latitude and longitude, more power than usual to direct funds, to redirect funds, laying off non-essential employees in blue states first, showing that the left's bloat is, ladies and gentlemen, what it is, bloat. This is why you need Real Talk Radio Network. This is why you need The Right Side and all of the shows that you find here. It is, you cannot and will not get that, not on Fox, not on Newsmax, nowhere. But there are polls out there that are frightening, and they deserve our attention for a moment, and I want to talk about them. Nearly half of Americans who are aged 18 to 29 view socialism more favorably than capitalism. Now, it's hovering around 50% in some recent Gallup surveys that I read last night and this morning as I'm getting ready to meet with you good people today. Why does that siren song of socialism and communism sound so good to our young people? Because it mixes up this cocktail of idealism and ignorance. It is socialism, communism, the Communist Socialist Party is a cocktail mixture of idealism and ignorance. And if you give this cocktail to minds that are not trained to recognize the evil and the deception of it, you get indoctrination. Young folks, fresh out of high school, fresh out of college, with mountains of debt, skyrocketing inequality. You know, I'm a boomer, all right? When I went to college, it cost $600 a semester for me to go to the University of Missouri in Kansas City, UMKC. Go Roos! Whatever. $600 a semester. $600 a semester. We've got to get a grip on these kinds of things through our economy, through our spending, because in most cases, folks, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And that's very evident when you look at your county, wherever you live. So communism microscope, under a microscope, when we come back, we're going to dive into it a little bit deeper. Stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be right back.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity, and you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Right Side with Doug Billings. The last half hour of the second day of the week. Here we go. Communism, socialism. Under the microscope, young people, fresh out of college, mountains of debt, not knowing where to turn, CEOs raking in millions. Now, I have no problem with capitalism at any level. If a sports figure, an athlete, CEO can get whatever the market will bear, go for it. 100%. But the radical left liberal agenda, hey, socialism over here. By the way, you're riddled with all of this college debt. We can give you equity. We'll make sure that you're treated equally. I'm going to get to that word equally. Also, we're going to give you free college. We'll pay for your debt. Universal health care for everybody. Free education, health care, maybe even free housing if you play your cards right, if you fill out a certain form the way we tell you to. Sign me up, they say, right away. So those are entitlements, ladies and gentlemen. Entitlements really began to rain down in earnest with FDR, a Democrat. Entitlements are a way by which the radical, no, not even radical, by which the mainstream Democrat Party can continue its creation, to continue its method of putting people in slavery. Entitlements equal slavery. Slavery to who? Slavery to big government. Sit on your porch. We'll pay you. Sit on your porch and guzzle down Schlitz malt liquor or whatever adult beverage of your choice is and just waste away, because we're going to give you free money to do that. Oh, but all you have to really do is fill out this ballot that we're going to give you and give it to the guy in the white. But that's all you got to do. I mean, it's really, in some cases, that drastic. But you get my point. Entitlements rob people. Now, there will always be people in need, ladies and gentlemen. I know. We as conservatives always take care of the less fortunate. In fact, our philosophy, our beliefs, our proof that we care for people more than liberals is that we don't want them to sit on their porch and rot away. We want to enable them to have enough money to get a job, to build self-confidence, to build character. I mean, we will always take care of people who cannot work. But that's another reason why this government shutdown, people that need SNAP benefits and food and so, they're not being funded, and the radical left is causing this on purpose. So it's slavery through and through. They want you, it's to be enslaved to big government, and it works to a great degree. You've got it. Hey, give them credit. If you're a radical liberal, and if you want to fundamentally transform America away from the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers, you have been trying to do this quite well, and you've had some success at it. But young people today don't have what we have as far as hindsight. They did not live through the Cold War. They don't have any memory of Soviet breadlines or Cuban oppression or anything else that socialism provides, which is always death, destruction, and despair. Always. Capitalism has single-handedly raised more people up out of poverty than any other convention in the history of mankind. But instead, these young people are bombarded every day from professors who push Democrat socialism. It's a cozy European welfare state. Ignoring the tax burdens and the stagnation of the economy will continue to pay for you. And did we ever see this during the COVID nonsense? Free money. I was given a check because I had left corporate America. I didn't take the check. In fact, I sent it back. And yet there are so many people. Oh, yeah, well, I don't know. And they buy a new car. They go out and buy all sorts of other things. I know, an RV, whatever, with this COVID relief money. I just don't get into that government handout nonsense. There's a book I'm going to recommend. And for those of you who are watching, holding it up for you, Socialism Under a Microscope. Now, this is written by Rodney Howard Brown and Paul Williams. Socialism Under the Microscope. Pick it up. It's not a long book. It's terrible. It's a little small, little paperback book. It'll fit in the palm of your hand here. But in it, they describe socialism's allure from its historical pitch all the way back in the day to now a current fix for what they claim to be capitalism's flaws. And the young people now, they're being taught this, and it's appealing to them. Flashy, shiny things. You can get me out of debt. What? Free housing? What? Free medical care, perhaps? Okay, I'm in. And so this all roots back, and we can trace it to thinkers who dreamt up these classless, societal classless utopias, right? That delivered nothing but dictatorship. The Frankfurt School. If you don't know much or anything about what's called the Frankfurt School over in Germany, look it up and do your research, because it plays a sneaky role. A band of intellectuals over there who fled Nazi Germany, and then they came over to America. and infiltrated our universities. So they would spread this cultural Marxism throughout, and they would call it critical theory. And it got into our schools. John Rockefeller, John Dewey, Andrew Carnegie, all of whom are avowed socialists, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I know they participated in capitalism, and they became incredibly wealthy because of capitalism. Every one of them avowed socialists. Not my opinion. It's a matter of fact and a matter of record. Socialism, eroding the traditional values of American family. And, by the way, free enterprise by framing everything as oppression. Everybody's against you. So that paves the way for the big government to come in and take over some things, right? The government should do this for us. And the government's role begins to expand throughout the country. Then there's the socialism under Uncle Sam angle that they took. Now, those are the ideas that were steeped into U.S. policy from, you've got progressive taxes that would punish success. And there are still people out there today, you've seen them, who want to punish success. Barack Obama, you didn't build that. We built that. You remember that, right? To welfare programs that foster dependency. That's the slavery dependency. All of these programs, that's what it creates, right? You can't be self-reliant. The big brother, big government will take care of you. And Americans began to become really wards of the state. That's what socialism views us as. You're just wards of the state. But that's not just theory for them. That's real world experience. And when we look at it, we see nothing but failure. Venezuela, it collapsed. It was the most rich oil producing country in the world, beautiful country, absolutely collapsed when socialism took over. Cuba, much the same way, a beautiful country, rich in product, but now faces endless poverty despite, their free health care and all of that. They lack basic medication, basic needs. Have you been over there? I don't think there's a car that exists prior to 1975 over there. And then the youth, it preys upon desperation that young people sometimes feel. Horror, starting careers in gig economics, right? They have not been taught patience and the ethics of hard work. Everything should be given to you. Where does that come from? Participation trophies. Oh, don't worry, Johnny. We know that you didn't win, but here's a trophy. Thanks. It's nonsense. Competition all of a sudden is bad. We cannot have these kids compete. And we then churn out generation after generation of the most wussified children that this nation has ever seen. Tim Walz grew up to become the wussified version of the American man. And then social media echo chambers, right? Amplifying AOC and the squad, all of their rhetoric. And we've got generations of people who actually romanticize the things that history condemns. And so to correct this, we really do have to turn our eyes to education in our local levels of government. So that's in Missouri, Kansas, wherever you live, in your local levels of government. Because we need to begin to start teaching. And this program, the Real Talk Radio Network, prime involved in this in a way that is not and cannot be understated, to teach the unvarnished truth about what socialism's body count is. And when you begin to look at it in those terms with history, and I mean body count, death, destruction, how many lives lost? Socialism, over 100 million people dead in the 20th century as a direct result of socialism. From Stalin to Mao, 100 million people. And we need to look at these stories of people who have escaped socialist regimes, right? And have told us about it. They come over here and they absolutely thrive in America's free markets. And you know the two reasons why they thrive? One, not to be lost on the discussion, is because they assimilate. They assimilate into American culture. And that is what the difference is here, really, when we talk about immigration. We must assimilate. And they don't far too often, especially the radical Islamic sect. States throughout the country are beginning to outlaw burqas and other Islamic fashion. Not because it is an affront to the religion, but because it's an affront to what that could do as regarded to terror. So parents, school boards, local level, begin to countermeasure the communist socialist threat that we see. That's what we do. Economically, we have to be involved. Again, policies that push our youth to be empowered, to be involved. Tax cuts, for starters, another conservative mantra. Apprenticeships over useless degrees. You know, let's train kids in labor. Let's train kids in industrial arts, welding. I mean, all of that. I don't even know. I don't think I've seen a high school lately. Maybe they still exist that has a shop class, right? Home economics, all of that. Let's teach these kids, boys and girls alike. And then if you're fired up by that, we need your involvement. That's how we take this country back. The radical left, with their push towards chaos, with the call from Obama himself to fundamentally transform our country, needs to be put to an end. So we start local. Please run for school boards. And I know nobody in their right mind wants to go sit through a 3-hour school board meeting, but we have to. The reason that we've lost our country in so many respects is a direct result of us not being involved on that level. Your county board of commissioners, another way. Neighborhood watch groups, all of it. Free markets, push for vouchers for school choice. Why not? Why not have a choice as to where your kids go? Deregulation for small business. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back after this commercial break for the last segment of the show for today. Don't change the dial, because if you do, the liberals win. I'll be right back. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. This is where it all happens. This is where I dispense to you intellectual maturity, and you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. Well, I've got a deal for you, folks. You want to cut the cable cord once and for all? You spending what, 120, 150 or more a month on cable? What if I told you I can get you every cable channel out there, every sports team that you want to follow, the NFL channel, the Major League Baseball channels, all of them, every network channel, every cable channel for $59.99 a month with Q Broadcast, not the kook Q. I'm talking about CUE. CUE, Q Broadcast. Go to therightside.myqbroadcast.com. therightside.myqbroadcast.com and get signed up today. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
There it is. That's apropos. That's what we need. A little less conversation, a little more action, ladies and gentlemen. A little more action at the local level of government. That's the answer call. That's the clarion call for conservatives around the country and wherever you live. We have got to simply get involved. And you know, General Flynn, my friend, is famous for saying all of the time, your local action, the action that you take locally, will have a global impact. And he's absolutely right about that. As we look back over the history of what socialism and communism offer, you know, we scratch our heads and say, how are so many kids, if it's true, if these polls are even halfway accurate, that ages between 18 and 25 are in favor of, upwards of 50% in favor of socialism, then we have a chore and a task ahead of us, and that is simply summed up by involvement. That's the plan, that we the people rising up and taking the republic back. And for too long, look, if we're honest with ourselves as conservatives, and I include myself, prior to 2020, when we witnessed the theft of a certain American presidential election and the COVID nonsense, prior to that, I really wasn't thoroughly awake. You know, always a Republican, always a conservative, but awake to the details of what the deep swamp was doing? No, not so much, not awake. And not awake to really the value of involvement. This show, The Right Side, was born out of a desire to help people become awakened to the truth. I mean, you know my story, right? I fired from from corporate America because I wouldn't, as the vice president of human resources, I wouldn't write policies that would shut down hospitals and prevent preventative care for people during COVID. And so here we are. And so again, I encourage you to get truth from places like the Real Talk Radio Network, number one in the country for conservative talk. Number two in the state of Missouri, I think, overall. We've got to share these things. This program, again, I'll remind you, a shameless plug. Follow me, subscribe over on YouTube. It's free. And you know what? I have never charged anybody to watch my show. I have solicited sponsors, absolutely. I mean, it's capitalism after all, right? We still have to make a living. And so I've asked people from time to time to go by my website, dougbillings.us. And if you feel like you want to subscribe over there, that's one thing. But YouTube is free. Just subscribe. That way you'll see and get notifications of the programming. Follow the people on the Real Talk Radio Network, all of them. Follow their shows, support them. Support the station itself. This is the battle that we're in. And it really is that fundamental. It really is. Again, if you know someone, if you yourself, small business owner, you have a product, you have something, you want to advertise, find us, call us at the Real Talk Radio Network. And we are in this together, first of all, and we will help you. It's time that we come out from behind the veil of, potential bullying or being afraid of what the radical liberal mob will say about us if we align ourselves publicly with conservatism. This is what it takes. We're all in this together. And so I encourage you to think about that, because we have real issues, and especially with our youth. I would love to get to a place where they look at the founding fathers and their intent and they go, oh yeah, actually, I can find more success if I would just align myself with beliefs that working hard and earning something actually builds up dignity more than what the radical liberal plan is, to offer people entitlements to sit around all day and do nothing. But the radical left is always talking about how they build up self-awareness and dignity, human dignity. We are the party that builds up human dignity. If the radical liberal moment, that's what they claim, right? Well, all one must do is simply look at the results of what radical liberalism does. Look at the open borders. You think that was a building up of human dignity? It was the exact opposite. Encouraging people to come over illegally and wait and go through the lines to get here. And ladies and gentlemen, beyond just that, no one, and words are important, no one who came up through our southern border got here unless they paid the cartels. And I could tell you story after story about the brutality that especially girls and women went through, but young boys and men as well, when they went up and they tried to get to our southern border. There is a term, and I know there's a friend of mine, Christy Hutcherson, who has gone behind the scenes. Another friend of mine, Steve Slepcevic, who's got the most the high-end intel drones. They've looked at this. They've gone behind the borders, and they will tell you stories about things called rape trees, where clothing is strung up in the branches as trophies and as a warning. No one gets to America unless you deal with the cartel. So for the radical liberal movement to tell us that they build up human dignity by encouraging mass migration to the United States is abjectly false and horrifically wrong, and evidence of the obvious is sufficient. All one must do is look, and you see it, the barbarity of it. And we are also, and we must mention this, we are in a spiritual war more than a political war. And we are reawakening, thank God, to his providence, but we have a lot of work to do. We believe in the divine providence of God. We believe in working hard and building up human dignity. And that comes through capitalism, folks. It comes from a belief in God and having faith, not from the vacant hopelessness of atheism or the rampant murder and availability to drive people into the dirt of communism or socialism. And we need to be the voice of all of that. And being a voice doesn't mean that you have to sit behind a microphone. It doesn't mean that you have to be on a stage. It doesn't mean that you have to be on television or the radio. It means that you simply share a post or comment on a post and support it, or point out why a liberal post is wrong. And don't be afraid of the haters. Look, water on the wing of a duck. You don't let that stuff bother you. Say the truth. And we do, and we are reclaiming the republic. Then we're going to end on a good note. America is not on her deathbed, and she has never really been there. We've been in a nightmare. Oh boy, were we, with Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris, most clearly in a nightmare. And as I told you, everybody wakes up from nightmares. That's the good news. And we endeavor to take the republic back through our actions, through we the people. Not through some secret plan, not through, the military taking over. Remember all those rumors? That's not the plan, nor has it ever have been. It's we the people. It's us, conservatives. And then you begin to see the blessing that has been there all along, really. And if you look at your life, from my own, I can tell you at any given moment, every one of us, no matter what our current situation may be, we always have a pack of blessings on our back. It is it's the ability to recognize and see through adversity, challenge, and tragedy that leads to that recognition. And really, it's not that difficult. This is how we do it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining. Share the program, and let people know we're here. God bless you. We're in this thing together, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.